through not achieving and through not being anything other than themselves. Fours.
I had that conversation not too long ago
with
myself.
Okay, well, you also have wings. And as a 2, you will have either a more of an accentuated 3 wing, or you will have an accentuated 1 wing. And I think we had this conversation as well, and I thought you were much more of a 2 with a 3 wing. So you're quite an achiever. You push yourself. I think a 2-1 probably wouldn't have had a radio show sort of doing as well as you're doing. So a 2-3, 2 with a 3 wing. Keep up, everybody. You've got wings. Flap, 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 flap. So wherever you are on the Enneagram, like let's say you're a 4, you're either going to have a 3 wing, more accentuated 3 wing, or you're going to have an accentuated 5 wing. For example, it's like John Lennon. John Lennon was a 5, but with a 4 wing. So he was the 4 wing is like the individualist. They're wanting to be special, wanting to feel special. But he was quite reserved and didn't really like a lot of the public speaking necessarily. So let's go through them a little bit. So type 4s, they end up finding that identity within themselves, because their fear is having no identity of significance. But ultimately, they find that they are uniquely themselves within, not having to prove anything externally of look, I'm so great, and sort of I'm the life and soul of the party. They find it within, and they feel at peace by finding that significance within themselves. 5s end up turning inwardly, and they find mastery. Eckhart Tolle. 6s to have support and guidance, and they find that within. 7s to be satisfied and content within, because 7s are always like the grass is always greener, and they don't want to be trapped. And ultimately, it's I did some work with a 7, and what was they? I think it was something like the grass is always greener on the inside. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, that is nice.
The grass is always greener on the inside. Isn't that wonderful? And it's true, because because they're looking for they've got a gluttonous tendency, and it's like, oh, that would be the better thing. That would be the better thing. That would be the better thing. And slowing the mind down allows them to go into the virtue of sobriety. And they transform that. Goldie Hawn is a 7, for example. She's got a very fast mind. She does meditation now, and goes on and takes that into schools and does other things. So they end up finding that within themselves. It's always within. This is why it's a transformational shift, whether you call it a psychological transformation or a spiritual transformation. That's completely easy. 8. Raise the vibration, Daniel. 8 is self-protection. So actually they end up finding their temptation is thinking they are completely self-sufficient and lust. But they end up finding that control within themselves. And they end up falling away from this lustful tendency, and they fall into innocence. And they let down the guard to their hearts. And really evolved 8s are lovely human beings to be around. Out of balance 8s, crikey, my father was one, and they are, oh, crikey. They can be very, very controlling and dominant, and they can bully, and they can put they could throw their weight around, even the ones who don't seem to have a lot of weight. I've met very, very thin, weenie 8s, and they use it psychologically, and they psychologically bully. 9s, the need for wholeness and peace of mind, and their temptation is to avoid conflicts, avoiding self-assertion, and their basic fear is loss, fragmentation, and separation, and the holy idea is love, and it's connected with sloth. So you think that it's disengagement, and ultimately they take a step back. They're always kind of like taking a step back, and ultimately they find through their transformation they're able to take action and move forward. So you've got those anger, pride, deceit, envy, avarice, fear, gluttony, lust, and sloth. And this is throughout humanity. So this is where I think it's got lost within religion, and this is where I think personally sort of I became more spiritual, and I was from a young age, and this is where the Enneagram explained a lot to me. About finding peace. If every single human being on the face of this planet had a spiritual transformation and were all in their opposite tendency, so there'd be no anger anymore in the world, no pride, no deceit, no envy, no avarice, no fear, no gluttony, no lust, no sloth. because every single human being was highly evolved, and every single one was doing serenity, humility, truthfulness and authenticity, equanimity, non-attachment, courage, sobriety, innocence and action. You would talk about heaven on earth, because every human being would be that enlightened. So the idea that heaven is out there, to me, it's heaven is within. Heaven is always within each and every one of us. And the more that we evolve, and the more that we enter our cave that we fear, the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, the more that we go into that, the more that we actually transform ourselves, and we bring heaven within, and we end up giving heaven out to the world. Because we unconsciously liberate others through our own transformation.
You know, that's very, very true. And the thing is that when we go within, we come out peaceful. And in that peace is a very, very high frequency.
Yes.
That it's a higher frequency than love. Peace is just below Christ consciousness, or consciousness,
right.
Consciousness, whatever you want to say.
Yes.
A very, very high frequency where we're resonating.
Yes.
And even when you're resonating at 350, which is acceptance, when you're resonating there, you affect 7 people by resonating in that frequency.
Oh, I love this
if
stuff.
you mean to or you don't. So if you can imagine 7 people at 350, how many people do you affect when you're resonating from a place of peace?
Yes. I love that. I love that. You've got very good at knowledge and all that stuff. So yeah, I love that. It's brilliant. It goes hand in hand with that study they did a few years ago. I can't remember, is it in Washington, I think, and about 1,000 people came together and meditated, and there was a reduction in crime in the city. And the chief of police said there'd have to be 10 foot of snow, and it was in the summer, in order for them to be a 25%. Was it 25% reduction in crime? It was a massive thing. So the more that we go into these higher states of consciousness and evolve and go beyond our ego, go to the opposite tendency of what our ego is wanting for us, we end up, changing the vibration of other people, because other people are affected by that energy.
Right. Well, when you have a really magnetic person in the room, you're drawn to that person.
Absolutely.
I was trying to explain this to somebody, and they couldn't understand what I was saying, and I couldn't understand why. Because when there's a magnetic person, you're just drawn to that person,
Yep.
And so absolutely, it is the frequency that they're resonating on that causes that shift or that change. And they do touch people if they mean to or not. Yes. People say to me frequently, they say, you know what, I just wanted to say hi, and I don't know who the people are, but they think that they'll come up and talk to me or ask me questions, or they tell me all kinds of crazy nutty stuff, which is okay. Yes.
Well, that's great. That'll give you lots of fun in life.
Boy, you should hear some of the stories I get.
I'm sure.
But, I'm very approachable. I'm not very tall. I'm 5'2". I have blonde hair and blue eyes, and I don't intimidate many people. So that helps, I guess.
I should think it does.
So, okay, Daniel, we have just a minute and 15 seconds. So whatever you want to say to the listeners on the Elbow with Lisa show on Roatan Radio, 101.1 FM, the Bay Islands Buzz, go ahead and say it.
I wish you all as much peace and love as is possible, and I hope that I've provided something of an interest into what I do. And we never even got to talk about NLP and hypnosis, but it all comes in here. It all comes in because we're all trying to move towards higher states of consciousness and evolve out of our ego. So I use all of these tools in order to be able to help people to get there. So I help people around the world, and I help people over Skype. People can contact me by going to, I'm sure you can give my website details, www.danielhill.biz, and I work over Skype as a coach, and I sell packages of sessions and individual one-off sessions, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I knew an hour would go very, very quickly. I'm going to be able to go back to bed now, so anyway, so that's fantastic.
Well, maybe we'll do another show when you feel like you've got enough rest and you can stay up again.
Okay, that'd be cool. That'd be fine. I'd love to do that. I really would.
Okay, well, Daniel, I do appreciate you showing up for the LOL with Lisa show. I appreciate it very, very much. And your presence has been absolutely appreciated,
Thank you.
enjoyed,
Thank
and I know I'm kidding you and all those things, but I still love you, okay?
Oh, I love you too. Thank you. Thank you. I love everybody. I love everybody out there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening.
Well, you have an incredible rest of your morning. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a spectacular rest of the week. And we'll be in touch, okay?
Great. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.